Thank you very much, Kelly, for that video. Our distinguished clients and partners, guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I want to welcome you to this month's edition of our Leadership Conversations, which is our webinar series that brings to you conversations on pertinent leadership topics, key speakers sourced from within the country and around the world. My name is Kefa Bosire. I'm representing the leadership group today and standing in for Dr. Martin Oduro, our team leader, who is in the room but is engaged elsewhere and will not be speaking. Martin, you can wave at our guest today. Our speaker will be Michelle Arscott. I will be introducing her more later in the segment, and she'll be speaking on the topic of strategies for building dynamic and motivated teams. I'm also joined by a number of our colleagues. Dr. Pasio Pio is somewhere in the room. If you can see us, he can wave. Kelly is with me and Christabel as well. So you can also wave at our guest today. They'll be supporting us as we go on within this 1 hour of our webinar. A number of our associates as well as consultants are also around, and we thank them for being with us and showing commitment to the leadership group as we go. Today, just want to let you know that this is our 5th anniversary that we've been celebrating since December last year, and we are reveling in it for the next few months until we turn 6, and we probably then start having a different conversation. It has been a very impactful life so far. We have worked with organizations and individuals in the public, private, and non-profit sectors to be able to develop and support leaders. We focus on the areas of coaching and mentorship, governance and board practice, strategy and business advisory, leadership and communication, and culture and change management. These are areas that we deliberately chose because we recognize that they're not only our core strengths and competencies, but also that they give us a chance to be able to create the greatest impact for our clients. In our 5 years of existence, just want to let you know that we've served over 50 organizations in all those sectors I mentioned, worked with individuals as executives in the area of coaching, numbering over 250. We've conducted a number of board evaluations, board effectiveness training and governance audits, and we continue to create very high impact projects for our clients whenever there is need. And we want to really thank all our clients who have been part of our journey. Today, we are delighted that you've joined us. We invite you to continue to join our growing alumni community, and you can do this by visiting our website or joining our social media links, which have been posted in the chat box. Kelly has also put in the chat box our 2021 comprehensive calendar of training programs, and we want you to visit that and just see if there are areas we can work with you. These programs are curated to be able to provide a cross-section of the market with extremely insightful learning experiences. You can also reach us directly on phone or email us to be able to discuss your specific needs, because most of our programs are tailor-made, and we can work with you to make sure that your needs, your leadership or governance needs, can be responded to through some of our specifically tailored programs. Allow me now to turn to our speaker, Michelle Arscott. Michelle is an ICF accredited coach, a coach in the workplace, ILM certified coach, 2020 Gold Stevie winner, coach of the year in wellness and health wellness coach, communication expert, team facilitator, and coach, and a mindfulness practitioner. Michelle has also facilitated one other webinar for us sometime early last year in October, and the theme was leveraging mental wellness to unlock organizational performance. We are very happy to continue to work with Michelle, and we are very delighted that today she will be sharing most of her insights with us today, and we want you to be engaged. So welcome, Michelle, and take it over from here and delight us.
I will try. That's my objective, to delight you all. So thank you for the introduction and welcome everybody. So let me just see if I can share my screen. Bear with me for a moment. Can you see my screen, everybody?
Not yet.
Can we see?
No,
Okay, all right, no problem. We will just
redo it.
That's fine. That's fine, no problem. I'm not actually someone, when I do presentations and things like that, I always try and avoid death by PowerPoint. And so that's fine that we haven't got the PowerPoint. We can just talk about it. So good morning, everybody, and welcome. And as our host was saying, today our focus is on building teams, dynamics, and the strategies that we can have to create a dynamic and motivated team. So if people can just add in the chat for me, please. Are you leaders or are you, so if you're a leader or a team member, can you just put in the chat so that I know the audience today? So are you a leader or are you part of a team member? All right, so I will be doing a series of exercises throughout the sessions. And this is also something that you can yourself use personally for yourself, but also when you are in team meetings. As was said previously, I am a life coach. I coach many different people. I work with groups, and I also facilitate team building and team bonding session. So today I come hot off the press after just delivering a 2-day UNICEF team building retreat. So this topic is very prominent in my mind. So before we start, and this is something that's really important for us to do, to start anything, to start a meeting, to start our day, I just want us to check in on what we're feeling at the moment. So just check in, because often the problem is we're all in our to-do mode, we're all in autopilot, and we're not being conscious and we're not being present. And to be the best that we can be, it is important to be that. So I will just ask you, just for a few minutes, is there anything that you need to do to be in the right space? So, some people stretch, making sure that you're comfortable where you are. Have you got your pen and paper to hand? So just spend a few moments just checking in. What does my body need me to do at the moment to help me to be present, so that I can shed all the other hats that we all wear as humans? So I'll just give you a few moments just to check in, just to make sure you're comfortable, just to do whatever you need to do so that you're ready and focused to begin. Okay, brilliant. And what I'm really loving is I'm looking at your comments there, and fantastic. People are team members, but what I love is you're a leader and you're a team member, and that's so important that we're all part of this team. So really, really important. So if we're looking into team motivation, getting the best out of our team, I think the biggest thing that I always find is that people disconnect with their why, with their purpose. As I said, I do a lot of work with UNICEF, and the work that they do, an amazing why, ultimately to help the children. And obviously I'm looking at UNICEF in Kenya, so to help the children and families in Kenya. Now, life as humans, we can get bogged down by the little things. Suddenly, a small thing becomes a big thing, and we lose perspective, and then we can get bogged down by that.
Michelle? Sorry, I accidentally put you on mute, so sorry for that.
All right, so it's really important that we tap into our why, because we can lose it. We become automatic, we go into autopilot, we get bogged down by the small details. So it's really important to tap into that why. So please, just for a couple of moments, because we haven't got a long time and I want to cover a lot of things, I just want you to spend a couple of moments just thinking about, what's your why? Why are you doing the job that you're doing? So just spend a few moments tapping into that. What is your why? And if you wish, share in the chat. What's your why? What's your purpose for doing in terms of the job that you're doing? And please do share if you wish. What's your purpose? What's the reason why you got into the profession that you're in? What's your why? What's your motivation? So this is really important because when we disconnect with our why, we lose our motivation. So as a strategy, I suggest that you tap into your team's why, you connect to your why, and think of how you can anchor that. Is there something that can remind you of your why? Maybe it's an image, maybe it's a postcard, maybe it's a word, maybe it's something that can be put on your you can put on your screen. It's just anchoring into that purpose and having it so you can remind yourself. Maybe it's an object, something that is of value to you, something that can be on your desk or whatever, but it's having that anchor to remind you. So when things get tough, when we're feeling challenged, when it's just getting too much, we can go back to that anchor to remind us that why, and it can just help us to be more grounded. So I love it, growing leaders, because obviously a lot of you are in that leader capacity. Passion about people, creating a positive impact by leveraging knowledge and experience. So many wonderful things there. So my first tip to you is, how can you remind yourself every day of that? How can you be grounded? Because when we have that perspective, it gives us that bigger picture. And what can happen when things don't go well is that we focus on the small little details, that when we look back, we realize that actually it wasn't a big thing. We start sweating the small stuff. Right, so when we think about a team, I'm sure you've all heard the catchphrase, there is no I in team, which is true. A team, what is it? It's a collective of people working together for a common purpose. But I would just challenge that statement for a little bit, because there is a little bit of an I in there, and I'll explain what I mean by that. It's important that we always start from the wellness of the individual, because if you know, if you are stressed and anxious, that personally, that is going to impact your role as a leader, as a team player. So it's always really important that we honour the wellness of individuals. So as was said before, I did do a previous webinar which was looking at leveraging wellness to support maximising our potential. So I will come back to that briefly, that it's really important that we look after our team and we look after those individuals. So be it a small company or a bigger company, it's really important to prioritize that. And there's a lot of research that says that, when we prioritize the wellness of the individuals, then that has a great impact in terms of maximizing everything. So really important to have that. So be it wellness retreats, going to the gym, whatever is the thing that makes you feel good. So if in your company or in your work capacity, then that's not being honoured, then obviously we also have to be accountable as well. So we know the things that make us feel good. So can you please put in the chat, what are the things that make you feel good? What are the things that make you de-stress, switch off? After a long day at work or something that you do in the morning, can you share the things that make you feel good? And these are the things that we should be committing to in our lives, because we know if we are doing things that are good for us outside of work, then that will have a knock-on effect in terms of our performance, because we feel good. So when people talk about these things, usually what comes up, I'm a runner. So I'm not a fast runner, but I love running. So running makes me feel good. Other things like healthy eating, and I always say the 80-20 rule. It's a lifestyle. So 20% eating things and drinking things that aren't so great. But it's really important to have that balance. And just having a look at the chat. So morning walks, thank you, Veronica, for sharing. Exercise and praying, a great way to start the day. And it's really important to start that day positively, even if it is just an intention, you know, I will be calm. Sheila, binaural beats, that sounds, I'll have to Google that, but that sounds amazing. Meditation, research says that's great. Reading inspirational things. These things are important, and these things, it's important for you to be the best leader or the best team player. It's important that you honor these regularly, because you know, just think about when you've gone on holiday and you come back to work and what your mindset is like. I'm sure that, you know, you feel more relaxed, you feel more calm, you feel more positive. Something that might have upset you before you went on holiday is now no longer a bigger thing. So you can see there, it's really, really important that we honor these things. So let's all individually make a promise to ourselves, a commitment to ourselves, that we will honor the wellness part of our lives and commit to these. So just for a few moments, think of a commitment that you are going to make for yourself. And this commitment, be it to run tomorrow, or walk at the weekend, or get up early, or whatever, because you know things, you are the person who is the expert on your life. So make a commitment now to yourself. What are you going to do tomorrow or at the weekend to honor that part of you, which will have a knock-on effect to make you a better leader and a better team player? So please, and if you want to share your commitment, then please do. But that's really important. So that relationship with yourself is important. Another important thing as well is to have that perspective. So I've said that the why can give you that perspective to make things good, but it's also reframing. So we have human interactions, communication, stress comes up. So I'm just going to share a few reframing exercises that can help you to look at something more objectively. So what I would like you to do now is I would like you to recall something in the work context. Actually, it doesn't have to be in the work context, but just recall something that is giving you a lot of stress at the moment. Maybe it's in the work context, maybe it's a personal thing, but I want you just to recall something that's giving you a lot of stress at the moment. So just recall that situation that is causing you stress. Okay, so just have that and just park it for the minute. Now what I want you to do is I want your mind to take you back to a happy time in your life. It could be something yesterday, last week, you know, just see where your mind naturally takes you when I ask you to find a happy moment. So I'll give you a few moments just to think about identifying that happy moment in your mind. Okay, when you've found that happy moment, I want you to imagine that you can go back in time to that event. So imagine now you are stepping back into that happy moment and you are there. And if you want to close your eyes, please do. So now being back in that happy moment, I want you to just focus on what are the things that you can see in that happy moment? What are the things that you can see in that happy moment? And what are the things that you can hear in that happy moment? And what are the feelings that are coming up for you when you go back to that happy moment? So just savor the feelings and imagine being in that happy time. And now what I want you to do is I want you to go back to that stressful moment. And I want you to imagine that you are a fly on the wall, or you're a camera, and you're looking down at that stressful situation, but you're looking at it through the lens of happiness. So all those wonderful feelings that you conjured up when you thought about that happy time, imagine them radiating through your eyes, and that you're looking on that stressful situation, but through the lens of happiness. And now imagine watching that scene replaying, but you're not in it, you're an observer. So I'll give you a little bit of time to just watch that stressful situation that you identified unrolling, but this time you are watching it as a participant, as an observer, through the lens of happiness. So now watch that scene unroll. And as you watch that scene unroll, what's coming up for you as you watch that scene from afar and through the lens of happiness? What awareness is coming up for you? So that was a very simple exercise, very short. So if you found that useful, then obviously you can do it, it'll take a lot longer. But for the purposes of the workshop, I did it quite quickly. So if you wish, share how you found that exercise. So doing that, looking at it through new lenses, new perspectives, how did you find that exercise? And that's a very simple reframing exercise. And it's all about positive mindset. So when we come across stressful situations, it's good for us to see it in a positive mindset. So we can ask our questions, what is the silver lining? What is the opportunity here? What is the lesson I need to learn? What can I learn from this? So all that positive mindset about reframing and looking at it in a positive situation. And doing that, looking at it maybe from the perspective of somebody else, the other person, what are they going through? How are they seeing it? And this perspective, this top of the mountain thinking, can be a great way to distance ourselves from the problem and for us to see it more rationally and more positively. All right, so that's about reframe and just the importance of having that positive mindset. Right, in regards to having a motivated team who are inspired and happy, it's important that we have the right environment. So by that, I mean having a supportive environment, an open, honest environment, fun. When I do retreats and I ask this question, many people talk about having humor and fun, obviously where it's appropriate, but it really is important sometimes to not take ourselves too seriously and to have that humor and fun. It also helps to have that perspective. Connection is a big one. And unfortunately, connection has been impacted by Corona. That's probably been, there's many, many knock-on effects from Corona. But I would definitely say that one of the biggest issues is that loss of connection with the team. When I am doing team building events, a lot of people are saying to me, this is the first time that I've met my colleagues, because I started working during Corona and various other stories. We are human, we need connection. So if it's safe, if it's possible, if it's feasible, then we should be trying to offer physical connection as much as possible. If it's not, it's not the same, but we can still foster connection through Zoom. We just have to be creative. So having team quizzes, having connections, having happy hour through Zoom. There's many ways that you can be creative, but the most important thing is to have those connections, having those team building games, those things where people see the other side of each other. Like I think I've seen things where people, like, for example, baby photos of their team members and you have to guess who it is. So just there's various things that you can do to help connecting with people. So connection is so important, and when connection gets lost, that's when we have issues with teams and they can collapse. So connection's important. Another important thing in the right environment is meetings. What I hear a lot when I'm working with people is, when I say, what are the issues? What are your concerns? Literally everybody says meetings, death by meetings, meetings for the sake of meetings, meetings to arrange meetings, meetings. Too many meetings. We need to think about how we approach meetings. And always the question that I always ask is it adding value? So everything you do in life actually, but also in the work capacity, always ask yourself, is this adding value to the purpose or to the why? So when you are invited to a meeting, start that conversation. How am I going to add to that meeting? Do I need to be at that meeting? Can the goals be met by me just reading the summary of the meeting? So it's really important to have those conversations. Do I need to invite that person? We are all busy. We have all got too much work for the hours that we have. So we need to be more economical in thinking about what we are doing and are we adding value? So I would say with meetings, make sure, because it's very easy. People go off at a tangent. They start talking about other things, which is why meetings can also be very frustrating. So have check-ins in the meetings. Are we on track? Are we adding value to the agenda? How can we add more value to the rest of the sessions? So we are being smart with our time, because time, as you know, is so precious. So have those check-ins. Check in, are you really needed? Do I need to invite that person? Does the meeting need to be so long? Can we stick to the agenda? Is it meeting our purpose? So asking those intelligent questions before the meeting and then having those check-ins within. And that's going to really help so that we're having impact. And not only having meetings that we are moving things on in terms of the agenda of the company or whatever you're doing, but also having meetings that are about connections. Having a meeting just to check in. How is it going? What more can I do to help you? What are the obstacles? What can we do together to support you? Have meetings that are beneficial. And another thing that I'm hearing so much when I'm doing these presentations and I'm doing these workshops is people like to be acknowledged. Like appreciation is very important. Often we're just hearing when things aren't going right, the things that didn't go well. And it's like we just take it for granted, well, we haven't heard anything, so it must be going okay. But people need validation, and not just like once or twice, but thinking about within a team, as a leader, let's make sure that we factor appreciation in. Because when we factor appreciation in, it then makes those more difficult conversations so much more important. What is the issue with teams and collapse and not going well is often not being appreciated, not being valued. Think about how you feel when you have authentic appreciation. It makes you, we talked about positive mindset, you have a spring in your step, it makes you feel good. And then that can help you with the more difficult conversation. So I'd say really important, appreciation. And you know what? If we can't get appreciation from others, we can always get appreciation from ourselves. So just spend a moment. Can you please think about something that you are thankful about yourself? So write that down, or just think about that. Think about something that you appreciate about yourself, that you value about yourself. And just doing that, how did that make you feel? So I'm sure that, it made you feel a lift. So how does it feel when you get that appreciation? So it's really important to appreciate ourselves and to appreciate our others. So just going back to the chat, yes, meetings, meetings, we just have to be more economical and sufficient because they take a lot of our time. So it's really important to have these conversations and check in so that we're adding value to our time. So thank you, Julie and Veronica, for that feedback. So communication is at the heart of any interaction between people. It's the heart of relationships. When relationships are not going well, it's usually because of communication issues. So it's really important that you know yourself and also you know your colleagues. And there are various, I'm sure many of you have had many team building sessions and whatever, and I'm sure that you're quite familiar with the many personality tests that you can have. I personally use the extended DISC profile, which I find to be extremely accurate and effective. So I use it during my retreats and also when I'm coaching people. And it's very, very powerful because it's telling you predominantly about your communication style. And so when people complete this test, they not only understand more about their own communication style, but they also understand more about other people's. So in the DISC, there's four personality types, and you can be a mixture of them, but there's basically so it's DISC. So it's D stands for the dominant or direct personality, I is the influencer, S is the steady person, and C is the conscientious person. So everybody falls into one of those categories, but you might be a mixture of both. And so when you category you are, then you learn more about yourself. So for example, the D, the dominant and direct person, likes to be in charge. So often that is the leader in our groups. They are fast thinkers. They make calculated risks, and when you give them information, they want it to be short and sweet with the facts and the evidence. So if you know that you're working with a dominant person and you understand that trait, then you realize that when you could communicate with them, that it's important that you give them the facts, but succinctly. That so it's that awareness of the different personality styles that can then help to enhance our communication. So for example, if you were the C type, which is the conscientious type, then you are very much someone who likes the numbers, the figures, you like to analyze, you like things to be accurate and research to be made, you're a problem solver. You like to have the big picture. So I know if I'm dealing with a C person, they like to process things because they process things slowly because they've got an analytical brain. I know that when I'm presenting information to them, they need the facts. It needs to be accurate. So just me having this knowledge of the person can help me to enhance my communication with them. Because we can think, I have clearly communicated the message with this person. Why are they not understanding? But the most important thing to realize is you communicate how you like to be communicated with. That may not be the communication style of that person. So this is where conflict or stress can happen. So it's really important. The S person likes predictability, is very consistent. So we know that the S person does not like things at the last minute, not like change, wants the details. So knowing is going to enhance the communication. So it's really important that we have this knowledge and realize that how we believe we communicate is not necessarily how someone will hear us. So also it's important that we check in. So it's important that they hear what you are saying. So ask for clarification. If someone's given you something, am I hearing you right? Is this what you want? So what's the expectation for this? So it's important dialogue. Maybe check in midway. Is it okay if I send to you in X amount of weeks this, so that we can just check, am I on my path? Dialogue, dialogue. And as Harriet says, clarification is key. Communication is key. This is the key element of relationships. Any relationship with our partner, with our children, really, really important. So not only understanding communication style, but asking those questions. And some of us are good at asking questions straight away, those quick thinkers, but also some people need time to process. So don't be afraid to say, okay, thank you. Right. Is it okay? I'm just going to have a little time to think about that. And if I have any more questions, can I ask you? So clarification is key. Thank you, Harriet. Very important. Now we have blind spots. We do not know every part of us. We perceive ourselves differently. I mean, sometimes you're like, so how we interpret ourselves can be different to how other people perceive us. And as I said, we have blind spots. We may have an aspect of ourselves that's invisible to us. So this is where feedback is important, and particularly 360-degree feedback, because with these, then you are able to perhaps identify something that you didn't work well. You may think you may come across as one way, but others may perceive you differently. So I might perceive myself as coming across as right, I'm good, I'm expressing myself well, whereas someone else might see that as being very demanding. And so it's important that we have that feedback, and we need to have a culture of feedback. So this is where it's important to have the elements of appreciation. Always, yes, superior, fantastic. Johari's window is the bomb, isn't it? And that was what I was going to talk about. So that is a great simple 360. So I shall be talking about that later. But Johari's window, amazing, simple feedback. In fact, I will just share the questions now. Bear with me while I find it. Very, very, very simple. You can just go Google Johari's window. But you send it. So when I do this in the context of my team building sessions, they respect their feedback from, and perhaps also someone where they want to enhance their relationship. So the questions are very simple. What do you see as my strengths? What do you think I could do better? And what would you like to see me do more of going forward? So you can see that those questions are framed very positively. The 3 questions are celebrating the great things about the person, and that 4th question is then asking for, what would you like to see me do more going forward? Now, everything I talk about, I do it myself. As part of my training as a coach, I did Johari window, so it was very interesting feedback. And I remember, what would you like to see do more of going forward? I asked a friend to do this, and said, when we have a phone call, don't just end the phone call abruptly, and I never knew that I did that. For me, I'm very efficient on the phone, blah, 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 and then, okay, bye. But she gave me feedback that, that I was very abrupt. So that has helped me in terms of my how I am on the phone. So very, very powerful. I'm going to go back to comments now. So culture of feedback is key. 360s are key. Johari window, another fan, isn't it fantastic, Beatrice? And active listening, yes, I'll go on to that, but that is important in communication, because what happens is we talk over, we make up our own stories. We need to listen, and I don't mean and fully listening. When we listen, look, really hearing their words, because actually communication is not just about the words we say. Oh, that's okay. Listening to their tone, but really, really listening to what they're saying and validating what they're saying. So just going back to Johari window, the 3rd question is, what do you think I could do better? So the first question, what do you most appreciate about me? What do you see as my strengths? What do you think I could do better is the third question. And the fourth question, what would you like to see me do more of going forward? So that's Johari window. Thank you. So brilliant. Go back to really listening. And even if someone is telling you something you don't like, you don't agree with, it's about respect, and it's about appreciating what they're saying and validating what they're saying. And we can validate somebody by what's saying, by listening properly, by repeating back what they said, by asking questions, by being curious. And you know, if there is a tense situation, you can really help to bring the level down and bring it to a nicer situation by really listening to what they're saying and validating. You don't have to agree with it, but just showing them you hear them. That is really important in conflict resolution. Hear them, appreciate them, and respect them for what they're saying, because that's important to them. So that's an important key. Going back, self-awareness is key as it helps you to know your strengths and weakness. Improvement always starts with first acknowledging and accepting where you are now. We are not perfect. And I think this is also important to go back to that why. It's not necessarily a personal thing. You want to be the best leader you can be. You want to be the best team player you can be for yourself, but also tapping into that purpose for that reason to give that knowledge to others. And I always think, forget about talking about feedback. Let's rephrase it as feed forward. This information that you are gaining and people are sharing with you is to take you forward, to be the best person you can be. What is coaching? You know, what is all the training that we have? It's about to be the best we can be. And as humans, we're not perfect goods, and to work on those and have that constant journey of evolving and improving. And when you know those areas, then working on them to be the best person that you can be. So, of course, time is running out, but I'll just briefly go on to the next thing. Conversation is so important. It's important that we have powerful conversations. So as Beatrice says, self-awareness is important. So if you're just starting a job, or, you know, many of you are already in a job, but having those powerful conversations with your colleagues and with your boss. This is who I am. This is how I like to work. This is how I am when things go wrong. Imagine if you had that conversation with all the people that you interact with, how life would be. I would understand that you do not like last minute details. You do not like to be communicated on WhatsApp. You do not want to be communicated with after 6 o'clock. That you need information, that you need time, that you need guidance. I would understand that from that conversation. And that information can come from 360s and feedback and all those things. This is how I like. I had a coachee and we were talking, and he was like, yeah, I realized I need to just like my space. So please give me my work, and please, you know, if you can, just give me my space. I need. And I thought that was so powerful. Tell people how you like to work with them, how I am when things go wrong. You know, I can look like, oh, wow, you know, she's really, oh, she's so kind and nice and positive and whatever. But then maybe when I get stressed, I become, you know, really uptight, and I become abrupt and snappy and whatever. How important that would be if I told you what I'm like when I'm stressed. So you know that it's not personal, because you know one of the biggest issues is your behavior. I interpret it as a personal attack on me, but actually me shutting down and me being quiet and me snapping is nothing to do with you. It's how I react. And what can we do about it? What can we do about when you're stressed? Imagine if we had this, Paul, as you said. Yes, onboarding process. Let's be honest. Just think if we had those honest conversations in onboarding. you know, a lot of the stress and the anxiety and the lack of clarity would be gone. But the great thing is we don't need to have that at the beginning. We don't have to have it onboarding. It would be great there, but we can keep doing this. This is known as contracting, transactional analysis. And it explains about everything we do, we need to contract. So that conversation I've just said about this is who I am, this is how I like to work, that's contracting. So every relationship we have is about contracting. It's basically the expectations. Because what happens, we get disappointed, we get upset because we have these expectations, which we may not have even realized because they are psychological, they're subconscious, and we don't realize until things go wrong that that was an important expectation. But when you have that clarity, I'm just plugging myself in, sorry. When you have that clarity, then there's nothing to stop you from contracting again, you know. So actually I've realized that I don't like this, or this affects me like this, or I need to have more time. So it's really important to keep having that dialogue with your colleagues, with your teammates. Let's see what we have. Would you advise using 360 exclusively? I would say 360 as part of the whole thing. You know, so you've got the 360, but also you've got the reflection from the actual person, and also, you know, using coaching is a great tool, and also those personality tests. So there's a great way for the person to get information, different information, so they get that whole package. So I think that's important. Now I could go on and on and on. I've still got more notes to read. But very, very quickly, conflict. This is the big one, conflict. So just very quickly, I could go on, I could do a whole morning on this, but conflict is necessary. Conflict is normal. If we don't face it, if we don't face the elephant in the room, if we don't have those honest conversations, we're going to have conflict debt, going to build up, and then it's not going to be good. So we need to be brave, we need to be vulnerable, we need to address these things. We need to have these honest conversations. We need to look at what is our story about conflict. How do we see conflict? How did we see conflict as a child? What are the beliefs that we are telling ourselves about conflict that may not be serving us? When an issue comes up from another person, they're basically saying that their values, their needs are not being met. So when you're in a situation of conflict, try and get yourself into the other person's shoes. Try and get yourself that perspective and think about what value or need of theirs is not being met. Or if it's yourself, what value or need of mine is not being met? What do I need to understand? And never be afraid of emotions. If someone is expressing emotions, it's a clue, it's data, it's telling us that there is an issue. All right, I will leave it on that note because I'm aware of time. I hope that you found this useful and insightful in ways to just enhance our work in terms of as a team. So I hope, and I will share the, I can share the PowerPoint if that's of use. And just the last thing as well, 5 dysfunctions of a team. Inattention to results, so that big picture, not looking at the, so inattention to results. Avoiding accountability, lack of commitment, fear of conflict, and lack of trust. Those are the 5 things that are the key parts of having a dysfunctional team. So I will leave it there. If you're if you're interested, I will share my email. So yes, I work with teams. I support people individually. By PowerPoint. Yesterday, my UNICEF retreat, I got lots of positive feedback, and one of the things was, oh my gosh, I'm so glad we did this. I just day. So my sessions, we go outside, we connect with nature, we dance, we do music, and the results are great. And these are the sort of things that we need to be using in our team meetings to create energy and to get people engaged and motivated. And now I'm going to stop talking. So any comments, please share, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michelle. As always, wonderful presentation. Can we give a round of applause, please, virtually though? And if we have a minute or two,
thank you.
We have a minute or two for one or two questions. Anyone who has a question, please open your camera and just ask directly to Michelle.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for sharing your insights and nuggets today. My name is Harriet. How do you deal with a team that you feel is dysfunctional as a leader?
Hi, sorry, I'm having internet.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Michelle, can you hear
Sorry,
her?
Harriet, say it again because I'm having internet. Can you repeat, please?
All right.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Thanks, Harriet.
Okay, no problem. I was saying that how do you deal with a team that you feel there's some communication challenges, but as a team leader, the team is not being courageous enough to tell you what the problem is? How would you be able to get to the bottom of the matter?
So, Harriet, I would say, you know, perhaps if it's difficult and people don't want to have that conversation, then perhaps getting an outsider in can help, because, you know, people can often be more honest about to other people, because it can be easier because they feel like there's no judgment. It's not, you know, it's not going to be held against them. Or you have those powerful conversations and you set the boundaries. I talk about ways of working. So you say, we're going to have a conversation now. What we say is confidential. What we say is not going to be held against you outside of this session. So basically, you're contracting and you're getting the, you know, the boundaries in place so that people feel psychologically safe to share. And maybe it's individual, then groups, but that would be, I'd say it's always about contracting and having those boundaries. So get the guidelines in so that people feel safe to have these powerful conversations.
Right. Any other question? One last one.
Thank you very much.
Any other? So once again, thank you, Michelle. Seems like we need to close because we're just about a minute or so away from our time. And I just want to let you know, participants, that we'll be running a program on harnessing multi-generational talent later this month on October 22nd. This is for HR leaders. Get in touch with us if you feel that that's something your company can benefit from. Remember that we have baby boomers and Generation Z in the offices at the moment, and therefore it's a challenge for people to work their way around those generations. And this could be a very useful session for you. Next month, we have our next webinar. We'll be advising you details, but that is on 8th of November. You'll get our invite as well. And then later in November on 29th, we are running a one-day program on 360-degree leadership. We also invite you to show your interest so that we can have these conversations and drill a little further down about some of the issues that are facing us in the workplace. I want to thank you once again for joining us. Do have a very good afternoon and a great weekend ahead. Thank you very much and goodbye.